Real fast, while we're on a commercial, I want to welcome you to this video, a special edition of the Conservative Reply. I'm Alex Ross, your host, and today we are going to be watching the GOP's second debate at the Reagan Library. I'll be taking a moment between the debates and after the debates to give you my thoughts on the candidates, what they said, what they've been doing. I've got my cup of coffee in my Liberty coffee mug. I've got a nice large bowl for the popcorn that I may be needing. And of course, my notepad. Alright, so the first debate with just the four lowest candidates has just ended. Now, after all of this, the one thing that stuck with me throughout the entire debate that I wrote down on this notepad, that I circled with my pen and highlighted and scribbled around and drew stars, was a quote by Bobby Jindal, and this is what I'll leave you with. He said, "America did not create religious liberty. Religious liberty created America." It's about time for the next debate. I'll catch you right after the primetime debate. All right, the debate's over. We've heard a little over 3 hours of candidates talking. It's time to get to the commentary that I promised you. First, I'm going to start with kind of the lower tier candidates, the people that I won't vote for, the people that I don't think will survive too terribly much longer, and the people who had a very poor performance. First, I'm going to start with Rand Paul, who is polling 11th, as Donald Trump pointed out, who has less than 1% of polls, who is probably not supposed to be on the main stage. I'm not exactly sure why he was. I don't agree with Donald Trump on a lot of things, but on this, I did. Rand Paul shouldn't have been on that stage. He had some interesting comments on marijuana legalization, medical marijuana, shortening the tax code, but then he left out the tax code that he's so famous for in his closing statements, while other people put it in. Other people less libertarian than Rand Paul talked about how they'd abolish the IRS and shred the tax code. Mike Huckabee, he's a great Fox News host. He's a strong evangelical, strong conservative, but frankly, I don't think he has what it takes to be the next president. He came out pretty fun, pretty light, and quickly devolved into this, the world is ending if we don't do something, and this is terrible and serious and angry, and I couldn't take him seriously. I'm going to include Jeb Bush in this. I know Jeb is polling high. A lot of you probably like him. I know that he has a lot of donations, but frankly, Jeb Bush, his performance was bad. You know what they say when you wrestle with pigs? You both get covered in mud. That was Jeb today. Not taking a step back, but always picking the fight. And I had to laugh when he opened up at the debate by saying that he was a conservative reformer. A lot of these candidates clearly are mistaking the meaning of Republican politician for conservative. Sorry, Jeb, your record is anything but. You can keep saying it, but I don't believe you. There really wasn't anything that he did except for provide some terrible opinions on China. He said that he would not cancel the dinner with China at the White House, but rather he would launch an offensive in retaliation for their cyber attacks against the U.S., for their devaluation of their currency. I don't know how in Jeb's mind that a symbolic gesture of our displeasure is somehow worse of an idea than starting a war, but I think Jeb needs to reconsider his ideas. Scott Walker, he had a very good one line in which he said, "We do not need an apprentice in the White House. We already have one." It was a very good jab at Donald Trump, but that's really all I have for him. John Kasich, look, I'm from Ohio. I know John Kasich, and I would not vote for him. John Kasich was an okay governor, but he did a poor job upholding conservative principles in Ohio, and I think he would do likewise in the White House. Chris Christie took up a lot of screen time today, but Chris Christie was exceedingly unprofessional, leaning on the podium, slouching. Chris Christie did not show his best side in this debate. Chris Christie tangled with Rand Paul yet again. I think they're both dragging each other down. And Christie, like Jeb, said, "Oh, well, I did conservative change in New Jersey." No, you didn't. Your voting record, your policy record says otherwise. You did some conservative things, but you, Chris Christie, are a Republican through and through. You're not a conservative. So now I'm going to kind of work my way up from those I feel did the worst to those I feel did the best. Unfortunately, I have to put Carson at the bottom of this list. Carson is brilliant. I love Ben Carson, but his performance today was abysmal. He was calm, he was soft-spoken, and he did a pretty good job, but he really didn't give those answers that we wanted to hear. When we got to the end of the debate, he kind of stumbled over his closing remarks and missed the target that would allow us to hold on to Ben Carson. Unfortunately, I think he's going to be forgotten all too easily. I hate to put Donald Trump up this high. Donald Trump did terrible. But I think he said the things that people are going to want to hear. Do I wish it wasn't that way? Absolutely. Donald Trump speaks in generalizations. Donald Trump has no policy. The only specific I heard today was that he would repeal Obamacare. And really, that's not so special when you consider how many other candidates would do exactly the same thing. I want to hear Donald Trump policy. I know he's talking about how he has it, but it wasn't here in this debate. And he spent a lot of time tangling with Rand Paul, tangling with Carly, tangling with Jeb. It seemed like a everyone against Trump competition, which I think kind of worked very well, and it probably was exceedingly frustrating for Donald. That frustration is something that I think we should tap into if we're going to keep a non-conservative, non-Republican out of our election. I'm going to give Carly Fiorina the next one. Carly did very well. Carly had some very good comments about the character of our nation, about how it's wrong that we allow the live dissection of children with beating hearts on Planned Parenthood tables. Carly had an exceedingly good jab, a painful uppercut to Donald Trump in response to how Donald Trump heard that Jeb misspoke. She said, "Yes, and everyone heard exactly what you think of women about me." She had some very good spots. She spent a lot of her time talking about how America will have this resurgence. She will challenge the status quo. It kind of sounded like Carly was stumping for Donald Trump. The messages are quite the same. They're both business people, and they both are talking about making America great, about doing things not because everyone likes it, but because it's right. I think Carly really needs to work on her brand and refining this idea of who Carly is if she wants to survive for a lot longer. I think she did well. I don't think she did nearly as good as she possibly could have, especially not compared to her showing in the last debate. The person I think won this debate, hands down, without a doubt, was Ted Cruz. He did a perfect, phenomenal job at handling questions. Ted Cruz spoke directly into the camera, looked at it, and spoke to me, the viewer, to you, the American, to all the people who were watching. Not the moderator, not the audience, but to America. Ted Cruz did a wonderful job of outlining what he would do. Rip up the Iran deal, repeal Obamacare, uphold the Constitution, bring in constitutional, conservative, judicial people. Ted Cruz was well prepared, and he was ready. The only thing that I didn't find perfect with Ted Cruz is that he wasn't aggressive enough. Ted Cruz deserved quite a bit more screen time than he got. He waited his turn until they called on him and said, "You, speak." I think Ted should have been a little more aggressive in commanding control of answer time. He could have done a lot better controlling that, but I think he really shone. His closing remarks grabbed me, his closing remarks held me, and I remember them even after the debate's over and we move on to the spin room. I want to leave you with one last thought. Ted Cruz versus Donald Trump. Donald Trump being the front runner, Ted Cruz being my pick for this debate. Whenever there's a problem with policy, Donald Trump is very fast to explain it away, to make an excuse, to disagree, to tell you, no, that's not what happened, here's what happened. I think it's getting old listening to Donald Trump tell me the correct answer every time instead of the answer that is real. At this point, I'm having a hard time believing a lot of his answers because he is so quick to give me the answer that I want to hear and generalize everything. On the other side, Ted Cruz owned his choices in this debate. When questioned about his support of Justice Roberts, he owned that it was a mistake. But he also said that he would work to fix that mistake. He didn't explain it away. He didn't try to justify it like Donald Trump did. He said, rather, I'm going to ensure that our next judicial branch appointee is going to be a strong, principled, proven conservative. Ted Cruz did a wonderful job of providing solutions. If you have comments on today's debate, leave them below. As well, who do you think won? Who's your pick right now? And do you think that's going to change? Do you have a topic that you're interested in hearing? Something you want to discuss? Leave it in the comments below, and I'm going to pick some viewer suggestions to put up on this channel. As always, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. And new, a Tumblr blog. Here you will find textual versions of my commentaries, including a much longer written version of this commentary, where I can include a little bit more details from my notes and process it a little more complete. I hope you'll tune in on Friday for our regularly scheduled video, and I hope you'll click subscribe to keep updated with everything from the Conservative Reply. Thank you for your time.